Here's how to install BluMak3D's ditch light housings with Baja Design's S2 LEDs. Before we zoom into the fine details, here's a simplified preview of the installation. The harness from the passenger side hides under the cowl trim cover and meets the harness from the driver's side. Both harnesses tuck into the driver's side fender and enter the engine bay right by the power output wires from the upfitter switches and ground bolt, where they'll connect. The housings mount on top of the mirror arms with the existing hardware. We're going to connect part of the Baja Design's wiring harness to existing wires from one of the overhead auxiliary or upfitter switches. Searching the owner's manual for AUX brings up detailed diagrams for locating the auxiliary switch wiring and charts of the wiring locations, colors, and fuse ratings in the power distribution box. Baja Design's lights come with excellent weather-packed connectors that have removable pins, perfect for feeding the wires through small openings rather than cutting the plugs off. For most applications, we ship the housings with the lights pre-installed and wiring pre-routed through the small channels in the housings. We leave the pins open and ready to snap back into the harness plugs in case you need to run the wires through more small holes depending on your installation plans. If for some reason you need to extract the pins yourself, here are the steps. There are small flaps that flare out on the sides of the pins. When pushed into the connector, these lock the pins in place to keep them from pulling back out. To extract, you'll need a pin extractor tool which simply folds the flaps in to allow the pin to pull out of the connector. Gently spread the side locks open and flip the retainer up on the light harness plugs. Then, while pushing the wires into the plug, push the tip of the pin extractor tool over the end of each pin to fold the flaps in and allow it to disengage from the connector. After extracting the pins, use a tiny flathead screwdriver to gently flare the flaps back out so they'll lock back into the connector next time you put it in. Push the pins back into the connector and test to ensure that they are locked in before folding the retainer back into the lock position. When reassembling the connectors, note that terminal A in the plug is for the black wire and B is for the white wire. This is also noted on your hardware pack. Use a T25 and a T30 Torx to remove the bolts from the accessory ready mounts on top of the mirror arm housings. Gently pull up on the cowl trim along the bottom of the windshield to unsnap it. Since we're using an upfitter switch to power these lights, we cut the output wires to the lights off of the harness as close to the relay as possible for maximum length. On the passenger side, place one output plug close to the accessory ready point and then run it to the driver's side accessory ready point, tucking the length of the wire under the cowl trim along the way. On the driver's side, place the output plug near the accessory ready point and feed both sets of wire behind the hood hinge and into the driver's side fender. Plug the lights into the output wires and neatly tuck the exposed wiring harness along the seam between the cowl and the mirror arm trim. Set the housings in place and start threading the original hardware through the mounting holes, but don't tighten all the way. Snap the cowl trim back into place and tighten the mounting hardware to secure the housings. This hardware only needs to be snug and does not require excessive torque. Under the hood, identify the switched output wire you'll be using and the ground bolt. The supplied ring terminal crimps over the black ground wires. Use an 8mm socket to remove the ground bolt on the pinch weld, drop it through the ring, and tighten it back down. Use the supplied zip ties to secure the wiring to the pinch weld. We supply a heat shrink butt connector that will accommodate both of the power wires. With a heat gun, lighter, or torch, the solder inside the connector will melt over the wires for a secure weatherproof connection. Be sure to watch your background and not melt anything behind the connector. If you have any questions or concerns, contact BluMak3D directly. For more cool stuff from late model Broncos and other fun vehicles, check out our website at BluMak3D.com.